The Daily Bible in chronological order. New International Version Bible. Jesus chides arrest. Matthew chapter 26 verses 55 and 56a. Mark chapter 14 verses 48 and 49. Luke chapter 22 verses 52 and 53. Then Jesus said to the chief priest, the officers of the temple guard, and the elders who had come for him, Am I leading a rebellion, that you have come with swords and clubs? Every day I was with you in the temple courts, and you did not lay a hand on me. But this is your hour, when darkness reigns. Jesus arrested. Matthew chapter 26 verses 56b. Mark chapter 14 verses 50 through 52. And John chapter 18 verses 12a. Then the detachment of soldiers with its commander and the Jewish officials arrested Jesus. Then all the disciples deserted him and fled. A young man wearing nothing but a linen garment was following Jesus. When they seized him, he fled naked, leaving his garment behind. Trial before Sanhedrin. Following Jesus' arrest, John records that Jesus is first taken before Annas, who has been high priest from AD 6 through 15, before being deposed by the Roman procurator Valerius Gratus. It appears that Annas continued to exercise great influence among the Jews, and so it is no surprise that Jesus is brought before him for questioning. Jesus is sent next to Annas' son-in-law, Caiaphas, who has served as high priest since AD 18. Caiaphas presides over the Sanhedrin, also known as the Council, which is the Jewish Supreme Court, composed of 71 elders drawn from among the chief priests and scribes. Some of the members of the Sanhedrin apparently joined Caiaphas and his house in the late hours of the night in order to interrogate Jesus regarding his claims of messiahship. Then, as day breaks on Thursday morning, the entire council is called together in order to vote official condemnation. Laced through the record of Jesus' trial before the Jewish leaders is a moving account of Peter's personal struggle with loyalty to Jesus. And in the garden, Peter had been characteristically impulsive and rushing to Jesus' defense. But now, as he comes to understand the seriousness of Jesus' arrest, Peter realizes his own potential jeopardy. Then, confronted with charges that he is one of Jesus' disciples, Peter weakens and denies any such association. On 3 separate occasions throughout this long night, and to a number of different accusers, Peter will make vehement and even profane denials in order to shield himself. His later feelings of remorse and his subsequent leadership in the establishment of the church will stand in clear contrast to Judas, who on this same day will be consumed by his guilt and take his own life. Jesus led to Annas. John chapter 18 verses 12b through 14 in Jerusalem. They bound him and brought him first to Annas, who was the father-in-law of Caiaphas, the high priest that year. Caiaphas was the one who had advised the Jews that it would be good if one man died for the people. Peter's first denial, John chapter 18 verses 15 through 17. Simon Peter and another disciple were following Jesus because this disciple was known to the high priest. He went with Jesus into the high priest courtyard, but Peter had to wait outside. At the door, the other disciples, who was known to the high priest, came back, spoke to the girl on duty there, and brought Peter in. "You are not one of his disciples, are you?" the girl at the door asked Peter. He replied, "I am not." Jesus before Annas. John chapter 18 verses 19 through 23. Meanwhile, the high priest questioned Jesus about his disciples and his teaching. "I have spoken openly to the world," Jesus replied. I always taught in synagogues or at the temple, where all the Jews come together. I said nothing in secret. Why question me? Ask those who heard me. Surely they know what I said." When Jesus said this, one of the officials nearby struck him in the face. "Is this the way you answer the high priest?" he demanded. "If I said something wrong," Jesus replied, "testify as to what it is wrong. But if I spoke the truth, why did you strike me?" To Caiaphas, high priest. Matthew chapter 26, verses 57 and 58. Mark chapter 14, verses 53 and 54. Luke chapter 22, verse 54. And John chapter 18, verses 18 and 24. Then Annas sent him, still bound, to Caiaphas, the high priest. Then seizing him, they led him away and took him into the house of the high priest. Peter followed at a distance.